Hello guys. Today we are gonna talk about Prometheus. Oh man, these next two movies are gonna be something. um, so this one came out in 2012, 12 years ago. Oof. It's rated R. It's 2 hours and 4 minutes long. It has 7.0 out of 10 on IMDb with about 663,000 user votes. It has 64% on Metacritic with about 568 critics. It's directed by Ridley Scott, who did the first Alien movie, and it stars Michael Fassbender, who was in the X-Men movies, and Naomi Rapace, who was in what else was she was in? Um, the Jack Ryan TV series. Um, on Rotten Tomatoes, the movie has 73% by critics with 216 critics. It is certified fresh, and 68% by audiences with 258,000 ish audience people. The consensus on there is Ridley Scott's ambitious quasi prequel to Alien may not answer all of its big questions, but is redeemed by its haunting visual grandeur and compelling performances, particularly Michael Fassbender as a fastidious android. The movie is available to stream on Hulu, and it's all of the Hulu associates. It's also available to rent and buy on Apple TV, Amazon, and Microsoft Store. The movie is available, was released on DVD in 2012. Um, so I actually like this movie a lot. These two movies, and it's kind of hard to talk about this one without talking about Covenant a little bit because they're kind of a little bit. I will say this: I think this is a better movie than Covenant. This movie brings up a lot of cool stuff about this world, the alien world. Aliens aren't really a thing in this. These two, like the first four movies of this franchise, you kind of have a feeling how the aliens worked a little bit. I mean, there's still some mystery, but you kind of get it. These two movies, though, especially start with Prometheus, they really try to rewrite everything about aliens, what you think you knew about them. And here's the thing: if they stayed strong with this series of movies, they could have it would have worked with the way they answered some questions and introduced other questions, but they didn't, and that's a problem. That's probably the only real issue with this movie is the fact that there are a lot of questions that are brought up or asked in this movie that the only real way you would know the answers of is if you look up what Ridley Scott's intention was. Because, in all honesty, the only way to actually get an idea of what everything's actually supposed to be and add up to, you kind of have to do some digging because it's not all answered in the movies, which is kind of unfortunate because it really should have been and it could have. It just didn't click. And keeping all that in mind, like this movie's really good. I mean, the atmosphere is really good. I really like when they discovered like the ancient shit. It feels ancient. You feel like you stumble upon a past of something and you don't know how you should approach it or feel about it. And all the mirrorings of like humans and trying to find out who created them, and then you have the Matt Fassbender android with all that. I mean, there's a lot of good like rotational like effects of creator and created and vice versa. There's a lot of good stuff with that. There's some good horror stuff mixed in there as well. I really like what they were going for with this, trying to like take this world and explore the other aspects of the world outside of just aliens. And I think it could have worked if there was more follow through on the questions because spoiler alert on Covenant, it's kind of the same story there with questions and answers, and I'll get to that when we cover Covenant. But as for this movie, it's still pretty good. It does explore some cool elements, um, and does it? It's just interesting. It's a really interesting movie, and it does make you kind of think about like this world and everything. I just wish that And the thing is, it's not like it needed to answer everything in this movie, but I do think that if they were going to leave so much stuff up in the air, they probably should have established a lot more follow through with the next movies. But those things are kind of hard to predict and control sometimes, though, in the movie industry. Especially if when they did get one with Covenant, they really should have answered some shit. Because let's be honest here. I mean, if it took you 5 years after Prometheus to do the next one, I mean, it's not terribly long in between movies, but if you were really going for a big, big thing, it really should have been sooner. Um, but what's really Michael Fassbender, he really makes this whole movie connect well because his role as that android's really good. Like, that's the thing about this franchise. The scariest thing isn't necessarily aliens, it's the androids, because the androids are they're kind of built with a unique perspective and position where they're pretty humanoid, but because they know that they're created and know they're creators, they kind of have this perspective of they kind of rethink their purpose, especially the ones like in the Fassbender's era of androids, because the one after that one they're more sane, but this one and like the ones like Rourke and Ash from like the other Alien movies, those are the really interesting ones. Those ones are fun, and this is just a fun like this. It brings a lot to life, and it does. And I will say this: I'll talk about some of like the intentions of these movies in Covenant because that's when everything comes to a head. I don't want to give too much away here on that, but I will say that the biggest thing to keep in mind with this movie is that it's you got to kind of approach it in a way that's more gets you thinking as opposed to answering questions. Because if you're approaching this as like, oh yeah, I get to figure out how aliens came to be, you're kind of getting half of that, and you're not going to get all of it. And you're not going to get all of it within the two movies. You're going to have to go above and beyond. And a lot of people won't like that. And I get that. It is not the best way to go about it. But you almost have to because... and because after this one, they kind of... Because the original idea was that they really wouldn't use aliens hardly at all in these... it was supposed to be a trilogy, but they kind of took that back because people wanted the aliens because the last Alien movie before this one was Resurrection. It's been 15 years and the last one wasn't really that good, so people were ready to see aliens again. And even though it was probably, I don't know for sure, but I think it was made pretty clear that this movie wasn't really be alien driven. And I don't think people necessarily had a problem with that. I just think that the fact that I think a big thing was that the fact that it wasn't called Aliens, it was just called Prometheus. I think it threw some people off because I think when it first came out and something, I think some people maybe not quite connected that this was part of the Alien universe. And I get that because it is... I get they were trying to do a spin-offy thing or whatever, but I don't know. I think they would just been better off calling it Alien Prometheus or something like that. I think that would have helped a lot. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty good movie. Acting's decent, writing's decent. There's a lot of good intrigue, atmosphere. The horror's pretty solid. I mean, it's a well done movie. It's just kind of one of those things where you just feel like, man, if they just answered one or two more questions in this, the ratio between introducing questions and answering questions is it's just not quite right. With the benefit of hindsight, if they had the proper planning like they were going to, it probably would have been more on the money, but as is, it's just like, oh man, I just needed more. And it becomes more obvious in Covenant, and I'll talk about that one in the next video. But this is still solid. It's definitely a recommend. But yeah, outside of all that though, that's gonna do it for this video here, guys. Thanks for watching. In case you guys want to chat with anyone, just comment community section and whatnot. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the videos, and have a good day.